when we talk about dance studies, it's actually studying dance in a wider context. So it doesn't necessarily concentrate on the technique of it. You know, you get dance pedagogy, you can have research into the wider fields of dance like dance theory, dance science, choreology, ethnochoreology, dance psychology. So it's more academia surrounding it.
Yes, I feel exactly the same way. It's not experiential studio work. It's more philosophy, critique and analysis, how dance relates to the culture, those kind of things. So it's not about being a performer. It's being an academic that studies dance.
I just wanted to say, broadly speaking, dance studies just means the study of dance, right? And it can be in different contexts or different settings. Like it could be perhaps at a university or at an academy or even at a studio. Now, depending on the setting or depending on the institution, there will be different, teaching approaches and learning objectives and outcomes. So just broadly speaking, what does it mean to study dance?
I would say that vocational training is really designed for the student who wishes to, has a desire to experience a performing career on the stage. And I think they come in many different guises, depending on what type of dance you would like and what type of career you would like as well. So in our case, for example, at Elmhurst Ballet School, students are trained for their potential to become a professional ballet dancer in some of the international ballet companies around the world. And so we are our whole program throughout the 8 years is designed to prepare students for the industry in working with today's industry leaders, choreographers, and to enjoy a lengthy career on the stage.
You know, at the Boston Conservatory, our degree is a performance degree. They get a BFA in contemporary dance performance. So the emphasis is on performance. They do take dance academic classes, but there's few and far between. Either they take one dance academic a semester, but 80% of their time, the students are in the studio in their experiential dance technique classes. So we do not really focus on dance studies per se, but there are other degree programs in the United States that solely focus on dance studies and theory. And much less on the experiential aspect. But that's not what we do.
Now, I think that vocational institutions and academic institutions more and more is becoming very much blurred as to our territory or what it covers. At least this is what I'm witnessing. And it used to be that vocational institutions were typically prepared pre-professional dancers for a performing career. Yeah. However, it's becoming more and more or increasingly important to introduce or expose dancers to other complementary or related professions, right? And now the newest buzz term now is called preparing them to be future ready. So what does being future ready? Well, to equip them to be more entrepreneurial, in their career development, networking, and so forth, be more technological savvy, and also collaborative skills. So all these other things are now coming into play, rather than it's not just developing the artist, the technical side or the artistic side of the dancer per se, but it's all these other, I'm not going to say soft skills because that's been out. We don't use that anymore, but to be more future ready. Whereas the academic institutions are also doing that, but they typically tend to be more cognitive, so requiring skills like research, writing, and again, the objective or the outcome is to prepare students for maybe not necessarily as performers, but in dance, related industries, or so it could be, it's broader. And also in these academic institutions, often students need to study what they call the general education subjects or modules. So it's beyond dance-related modules, but other things like history and science and so forth. Yeah. So that's just my take on it.
And the other point of difference, I think, between the academic pursuit of dance studies and the actual training of professional dancers is the age category. Because for instance, for us, we are very, we prefer to take students into the school in the first year of study about 16 years old, because the industry itself is very ageist. And one has to be mindful you're putting out dancers into the international arena to compete with other dancers who are graduating from conservatoires around the world. So we can't necessarily afford to take dancers who are 18, 19, and 20 into a 3-year program, because they will graduate by the time they're 23 or 24. And this just means they're not competitive on the international market.
Times, at least maybe the last 10, 20 years, there is dancers, vocational dancers, being made aware of a little bit broader. I think during my time it was just about getting those pirouettes right and jumping and your double twists from the 5th to 5th and all that, just so that you can get into a company. But now I think there is more awareness, not taking the place of the studio time, but more awareness of, as like Robert says, maybe dance nutrition. The professional dance studies are great, like for us, because the place also, because being a contemporary dance school, we also see there's going to be a lot of artists when they graduate or when they leave the school might not join a company being contemporary dancers. So they might be independent artists. So how to write grants, how to write applications for funding, you know. So I think the difference, I think now, is that we are being made, or they are being made more aware of what's kind of surrounding the industry as well, rather than just about the technique of it and then going into it.
Yeah.
So you know, it's kind of like adding something on, which is a good thing. Yeah.
Similar to Elmhurst as well, because obviously the majority of their time is spent in the studio training, honing their technique, their musicality, their performance element. But they also, alongside that, they do their academics, because they start at, you know, aged 11 and go right through till 19. So I'd say in the lower school, it's like 50-50 split between their dance and their academics when they're trained to work on their GCSEs. And then in the 6th form, they have their 2 A levels, which is only 10 hours per week, alongside an increased level of dance. And then when they're in their graduate year, it really is just all dance. However, there is a professional dance studies element to it, where they are learning, I would say, very real world skills and what they will need when they actually graduate into the profession. So things like, obviously, performance analysis, things like learning to compile your CV, learning to communicate with a director, learning about nutrition, learning about sports science, injury prevention, nutrition, all of those real world skills that and transferable skills that they're going to need when they get into the profession. So there is a small academic element to that, but it's really very much industry led in terms of the academics, you know, alongside their proper academic work, which obviously is a given that they need to do.
In the Australian Ballet School, we have our vocational, but we also have our academic, because our students do their academic work as well. And it's really clear that, yes, there's a little bit more involved now than what was previous. So we've got a lot of work that has to be done in order to allow the students to fulfill their diplomas, which is really has been quite challenging on different levels. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're looking at where it can lead them to, it also gives them scope to be able to eventually maybe do a university course or go into something else, because they have that piece of paper that says, yes, we've covered everything that you could possibly want. And now it's quite stringent. So I've just found that as far as the training for the students are expecting to have something behind them, not only just their dance. I think the students nowadays, they want to have that education that they've fulfilled on different levels and not just from ballet. And within that, there's the different genre, that you offer to the students, so that someone who's maybe doing a classical course, but maybe more possibly suited to something else, they have that really strong basis, and that is again really fulfilling. As you said, they can go out into different fields and they can use their training and what they've been educated in to get them into a place they want to be.
I have noticed in the past 10 to 10 years, students want more academics. So they come to be a performer. That's what their goal is. But they're asking for more academic work, not less experiential work, but more academic work. And now that we are able to set up minor programs for them too, so they can get a minor in creative entrepreneurship, which will help them become, studio leaders, or company leaders, and know how to deal in the business world. And they're still A-level performers. So I have found this shift over the past 10 years to a more intellectual type of dancer, performer.
I think there has been an evolution, but I still think it depends on the basis upon which the school was founded as well. I mean, the New Zealand School of Dance was founded primarily to feed dancers into the Royal New Zealand Ballet. So we still are mandated to meet that expectation. And we acknowledge that we have a niche place in the market, specifically to promote the training of professional dancers. So 70% of our course is practical and 30% is theoretical.
Basically, I think they will turn out to be, they're not just a dancer, but we're a little bit more broader, but not negating the level that we want them to be. And we know what the level is out there, and we will train them to be able to meet the demands on what is needed out there. But I think their minds, maybe we're helping them to broaden their minds as well, and not just the minds, but what is needed around the industry. I
think you're right, Raymond. I think there's an emphasis on self-health management as well. I think we're starting to see a shift in trends of the kind of jobs that our graduates are getting. And I don't think I speak alone just for Elmhurst. I think we're seeing it across the board, that dancers today are having more what we would consider portfolio careers, rather than joining a big international company and staying there for the next 30, 40 years. Whether that's just a sign of the times, or maybe because young people today don't have such a shorter attention span. I think there's a desire from their perspective to try many different things. And I think that's just indicative of the society of today anyway. So to prepare them for that is a real challenge. So I think you're right. Having the education and being able to look after themselves out there is vitally important. And yeah, I think just equipping them with the skills that are just going to, last them not just for one job, but for the 3, 4, 5 different jobs in 5 different countries that they may visit. And I always say, working with any choreographer or industry leader, I think you've got to be an interesting dancer now. You've got to, because I think the choreographers are working in a very different way as well, where they want that creative input from the dancers. It's more of a collaborative process, rather than in the days where you would just stand there and say, okay, choreographs, tell me what to do. And I think they've got to metaphorically get their hands dirty much more these days.
I was speaking to Doug Verone not long ago, and we were talking about what kind of dancers he was looking for his company. And he goes, I want thinking dancers, not just doing dancers. So I thought that was really interesting, that he wants them to think, be able to problem solve, know about choreography, know about history, know about entrepreneurship, all of that, and not just be the technician.
since I joined Elmhurst, the curriculum has changed radically to incorporate more of that, you know, versatility. Of course, the classical ballet is the bread and butter, and that has to be refined, you know, because people still want to see that purity of movement, and that position in the classical technique is absolutely paramount. But they need so much more these days in order to work with these choreographers. I always say to all of my students, there is no such thing as a classical ballet company anymore. You know, and you look at the greatest, the biggest classical ballet companies in the world, most of the resident choreographers are contemporary choreographers and will require that level of versatility, creativity and autonomy in all of the people that they work with. So it's, you know, it's a big task. It's a big task to actually get these kids ready for that challenge.